Today on Food News and Chews, Chef Jeremy and Sylvia meet David Cooke from Grow Appalachia and learn how high tunnels can increase food production. Then Chef Jeremy makes a 3-cheese stuffed eggplant with a vodka tomato sauce. That's what's coming up on Food News and Chews. Food News and Chews is brought to you by these proud sponsors. Alltech, helping farmers feed the world. Azure Restaurant and Patio, worldly influenced, locally inspired. Sullivan University, offering higher education for people with higher goals. Azure Catering, catering the most important events. Yours. Critchfield Meats, fresh, high-quality, all-natural meats, guaranteed.
Jeremy,
Yes.
I keep looking. I want to grow Appalachia. I think that is such a cool concept. I mean, if we could grow it, just think you'd have traditional music, great food, moonshine for everyone, and I would promote Joyce Penson to be president, Bill Best to be vice president, you can be the White House chef, and I'll be the court jester. How's that?
Sylvia, you've got it all right. I mean, you know, Appalachia is big enough, but I think the point of our show today is grow Appalachias and grow food in Appalachia.
Oh, gotcha.
That could be a great economic answer to some of the problems down there in terms of losing coal business and, you know, the economy, but also health and wellness.
Oh, health and wellness is just the beginning.
Not just that region.
Just the beginning. I want to point out that in a big-time honcho magazine called Fortune, there's an ad about Grow Appalachia from the benefactor, who is the Paul Mitchell hair products kind of guy.
Yeah,
is that awesome?
His name again?
It's Paul, I probably will not do it justice, Paul DiGiorno, DeGioia, gotcha.
See, you are a food dork, Sylvia. DiGiorno,
food dork.
That's a pretty good one. But yeah, how amazing is that somebody took interest like that? I guess the man came from nothing, and now, you know, he started giving money right away.
Oh yeah, he came from nothing.
Like
That's right, and he wanted to. But here's the deal. You know, Grow Appalachia is really about truly and literally growing gardens in Appalachia. We're going to hear all about that in our interview, so we'll let him tell that story.
Right.
But what it bounces off of, Jeremy, is something that you alluded to, and that's the local and fresh food movement that's going on. It's not even all local, although local is important, but as much as you can grow in your own place and then supplement it with other things, and having it fresh is really important, because you mentioned, and let me just mention some of the other things, and then I'm going to ask you to bounce off on going to health and wellness. That's number one. Food safety, access and affordability, environmental stewardship in a place where we waste 40% of our food in this country, and not finally, but economic prosperity, building economies out of local food, and civic engagement, and getting people back together the way they want to be, like at farmers markets.
Well, you know, it seems to me, if you look at the history of that region of Appalachia, and even in the South where we are, and just the way people used to live, it seems like it's almost an answer to all those things you talked about. When people grew food, or they had to worry about food, they spent the day gathering food, growing food, preserving food. Nothing was wasted, but they were eating real food as well. So what seems to be disappointing in where we are now, you know, economically and also health-wise with the health epidemic, is the fact that we haven't had to think about our food for about a generation. Government subsidies have made it to where cheap food is, I mean, there is sugar in every single thing that you can buy on a shelf, added sugar, because
called processed foods,
instead of processed food, if it says it's low fat, it really just means they've taken out the fat, they've put in more sugar. All the names on the labels that you can't read, really what they are, I'll tell you, they're made from sugar.
Yeah.
That's what those things really are. It's a derivative of sugar. So that really plays down on our health epidemic. And And people in this region all over the nation have been eating the wrong foods for a long time. So if we look back to the way we used to grow food in a sustainable way and eat real food, that could be the answer to a lot of our problems, even economically.
And it's really important to remember that we're not against technology, because we're going to see some really neat technology in the high tunnels when we do our tour. But it's about like when they had to ship foods from the West Coast, and you know, people were excited and thrilled to be able to get tomatoes and to get lettuce and iceberg lettuce in the Northeast where they couldn't grow it. But now we've swung too far in the other direction, where people have taken food for granted and all of those things. So we will be kind of helping to expose that shift that's taking place out there, right?
Sure, and you know, that's just it's a very complicated topic you just covered about seasons and getting food when you want it. You know, one of the things we're going to be talking about today is, from what I understand, Grow Appalachia it does high tunnels. They install high tunnels.
Yeah, and they're
that's
these really
offer,
that they manufacture.
They manufacture them. They install them. You can you know, buy them, learn how to use them, and that's going to give growers and farmers a little bit of extended life on each end of the year. So you get tomatoes earlier. So you know, you may not be getting tomatoes in December, but you know, it kind of cuts down on those curb cravings, like where you want something. I
love it. Hey, I've got a great idea.
What's that?
Field trip. Let's go.
I would like to.
Where are we going to go?
Well, we're going to meet David Cooke, and we're going to go to Greenhouse 17, which, you know, it's going to be a pretty interesting facility. I think they've got 3 or 4 greenhouses there in high tunnels, and we're going to see how that works, and just find out what Grow Appalachia really is about, because they are growing, and they're growing a ton of food, and good food for people.
All right, well, let's go. Hey, Jeremy, we're here today with David Cooke and his daughter Mary Grace. We need a little youth in the picture, okay? With Grow Appalachia, and it's based at Berea College, as are so many exciting things that are going on in food and every other way.
Right, and today we're at Greenhouse 17, which is a domestic violence shelter that's growing or using high tunnels that Grow Appalachia actually provides to grow food year-round. So tell us what Grow Appalachia does and is.
Well, Grow Appalachia is the largest rural community gardening and food security program in the United States, based right here in central Kentucky, primarily in eastern and southern Kentucky. As our goal, our purpose is to enable as many families to grow as much of their own food as possible. For a variety of reasons, so folks can have better nutrition, but the impact on general wellness, to have availability of fresh fruits and vegetables is just enormous. As you mentioned, the high tunnels are one of our projects that we started a couple of years ago. We've built over 3 dozen of them now, and are actually listed as a manufacturer by the Department of Agriculture.
That's pretty awesome.
So we're building these for folks and providing technical assistance, and they're making a huge difference in production in a lot of areas now.
That's great. Well, can we go see one of them?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
All right. We have the peas. We have a whole different range of lettuces here that are looking beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
The beets. Their peppers are looking real nice. This is a very good time of year for peppers.
Oh, look at those pretty peppers.
Yeah, these are the ivory bell peppers. These are really tasty.
Oh, when are they ripe?
They're now.
Hey, David, is it okay if I use a little bit of that lettuce for our cooking segment later?
Oh, I think you ought to.
All right, I'm going to get some.
I love that. Okay, so
The okra, one of my favorites.
Okra. Look at it. He's back there getting lettuce.
This is the red okra. This is I love okra.
Oh, look at those okras.
They're beautiful.
I've only seen them on a plane.
Yeah. Well, okra's like a lot of vegetables. You can do so much with it, and most folks know fried okra, but there's so much more you can do. You can grill it, you can steam it. When they're small, you can eat them raw, and they're absolutely delicious. So a big part of Grow Appalachia is the educational component. So we not only teach folks how to grow in a sustainable and healthy and safe way, we teach folks how to cook again, because so many people have forgotten how to cook raw vegetables.
And how about preservation?
Exactly, and that's another.
Canning and freezing. Amazing.
And probably the most popular part of our educational component is our canning classes.
You can eat it in the winter time.
Exactly, and if your electricity goes out like it did in Berea last night for a while, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Got it.
And we figured last year in Grow Appalachia we were a considerably smaller program than this year, but we still grew over 600,000 pounds of food. And we figure about half of that got preserved. Most of it canned, some of it dehydrated, and some of it frozen. When you say high tunnel, it sounds like something fancy, but it's basically just a greenhouse where you grow directly in the ground and you don't have external inputs of energy. So once you build this, there's no electricity cost.
So
let me ask you,
what,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but how long on either side of the year can you get out of this? You know, what is it going to add, you know?
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're in Appalachia, or this region, there's seasons.
We are.
And that's the biggest, I think, downfall of having fresh food all year long is we just can't grow it.
Can't grow it.
Can we go out into the wintertime with the high tunnel?
You can actually harvest food out of a high tunnel in this region 12 months a year.
12 months a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, food
Tomatoes
like
and
this?
what?
Depending on how you grow it. Well, a major use of high tunnels in production, horticulture in this region is for early tomatoes, late peppers, because you can be harvesting tomatoes out of this, and Jessica has beautiful tomatoes in one of these tunnels this year.
Yeah.
You can harvest tomatoes a month to 6 weeks before you can if you've grown them in the open field. You have a higher production per square foot, and the quality of the product is much higher.
That's important too,
But
because of the rocky hillside.
Your per square foot production is drastically increased, and the quality, they're not exposed. This is part of what's called protected agriculture. So it's different from greenhouses in which you have a lot of external inputs to force production out of season. What a high tunnel does is allow you to have a little earlier summer and a little later fall. And then as her tomatoes have been pulled out, and now she's starting to put other crops in, Jessica does a beautiful job. Jessica Ballard is the director of the horticulture program here at Greenhouse 17. And she grows a lot of flowers for sale on the open market, as well as a flower CSA that she manages. So you'll see flowers and edibles grown together, which I think is a beautiful concept. What we're standing in is a typical high tunnel as manufactured by Grow Appalachia. We're recognized by the Department of Agriculture as a manufacturer of these tunnels. We developed the design, and then my technical director, Mark Walden, has continued to refine this design. So we designed this, we built it, we installed it.
Can you buy it at Home Depot?
You cannot buy it at Home Depot, but you can buy it from Grow Appalachia.
Not yet, right?
Yeah, we're
Other people producing these, or are you kind of on the van?
we're the only manufacturer of this kind of high tunnel in the state of Kentucky that we know.
So we can have people call Grow Appalachia and you guys will manufacture high.
We sure will.
Great.
And the nice thing about our tunnels is you get some of our technical assistance.
Yeah.
For tunnels,
big.
a little taller, a little bigger. It has a peaked roof. It's designed as a Gothic style.
And what's the advantage of that?
Well, the advantage is that this will shed snow much better than the Quonset style.
Shed is in it, falls off the side.
Exactly. Which is not necessarily a problem in this climate, but hey, you never know anymore.
I know.
Jessica was successful in applying for a government grant from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and that's how this tunnel was paid for. And we have two more, one which has already started, which will greatly expand her production capacity. This is another technique that we use a lot in Grow Appalachia, cover crops, where you grow a crop that is essentially intended to be tilled in, and then all the biomass and the nitrogen that's been captured by these plants goes right back into the soil. So as opposed to pulling all the nutrients off and using some sort of synthetic fertilizer, we're actually cycling those nutrients through the system. You get much healthier soil, you get healthier plants, much less need of any kind of inputs. I mean,
So sort of techniques that worked before
that our great-grandparents do, that a lot of people have just forgotten how to do. Grow Appalachia received a grant from USDA that we'll be starting in the spring, which is to do this kind of cover crop demonstration work all through southern and eastern Kentucky, because we know it works. We don't need to research this, we just need to show folks so that they can look at it and say, that's what you've been talking about.
What's the future of Grow Appalachia? Where are you going with all this?
Well, we're expanding more slowly than we had in the past. In 2010, we had 4 sites working 7 counties, and this year we had 43 sites working 54 counties.
Well,
so now we're expanding very strategically, trying to build a critical mass of counties all through eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, northeast Tennessee, southwest Virginia, primarily the coal field areas, but not solely, so that no family that wants to be a part of that is more than half an hour from one of our partner sites. So we're growing a substantial change in our primary emphasis, because from the beginning, Grow Appalachia has always been help as many families grow as much of their own food as possible. That's what we do.
But is the point, so you say half hour from any family, you know, they get to come and be a part of the greenhouse, or they get to learn the techniques to grow their own food?
Well, primarily, it's so that we can take the gardens to them.
Okay.
The model of Grow Appalachia is that we put the gardens at people's homes. This year, we had over 700 gardens at individual families' homes.
Substantial.
We took tractors there, we tilled the garden, we provided them with the plants, the seeds, the organic fertilizer, soil amendments, nutrients, whatever they needed. There's a substantial educational component. We taught over 300 classes in gardening, cooking, and food preservation this summer.
I want to be a part of this.
Well, we encourage you to.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we had over 100 community gardens for folks who don't have access to a piece of land or have had to move to one of the small towns. Right, or senior housing. We work a lot with seniors. We work a lot with disabled folks.
Like prison gardens.
We have a number of large community gardens this year that are either at jails or utilize folks who are incarcerated to do volunteer work in their community. We have a very successful garden at the Women's Birthing Center at the Federal Women's Penitentiary in Pocahontas County, West Virginia. So we're working with a wide range. We have programs at residential drug rehab centers. So we're helping folks approach wellness through better nutrition, but also learn a lot about life skills. We're low-tech, but effective low-tech.
And you're marrying proper technology, you know, because there's a lot of controversy about technology right now.
You know, we define Grow Appalachia as science-assisted craft agriculture.
That's great.
So we recognize what our grandparents and great-grandparents did, and we know there's certain parts of that way of growing that we should never lose sight of. By the same token, there's enormous research. This technique is how the Chinese feed 1.3 billion people.
That's right.
They're self-sufficient in food, and there are hundreds of thousands of these in the country, and this is the only way they're as successful as they are. We see these kinds of tunnels as instrumental in the future of agriculture in central Appalachia.
So it's using technology to the good.
It is. Much more efficient use of water and soil resources, greatly extended season on both sides, much expanded production, and higher quality.
Get me out of here, there's a giant spider. So I'm not Betty Crocker, deal with it. Hey Jared, what are we doing here today?
Well, the whole idea today, when we're working with Grow Appalachia and David, I heard David loved eggplant.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things they grow here at Greenhouse 17. So we're going to do a 3-cheese stuffed eggplant because that just sounds good, right? Everybody loves cheese.
You couldn't go wrong.
Eggplant can be a little bit mysterious to people.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's really a versatile vegetable. I use it all the time. I even hide it in certain things because you can, you know, kind of put it in places in sauces, and it gives a rich texture that people don't really notice, or they don't know what it is, but they love it. I love this.
It looks nutritious because it's dark. You know, I don't know why that makes me think it's nutritious.
I don't either.
Remember the apron.
But it is nutritious.
Yeah.
But there's a few rules everybody needs to know about eggplant, some things that I like.
And by the
to
way,
do.
we're with Mary Grace too. Remember, we need some youth in on
And
this.
she's going to help me out with,
Yeah.
with making this eggplant a little bit less bitter. So first of all, with eggplant, I usually like to take the tops off and the bottom just to kind of even it out, because we're going to need something that's going to, we need long planks for rolling up with the cheese.
Yeah, I want to see what it looks like inside.
Okay, inside you've got this kind of spongy, wet, white flesh. And that moisture, if you can tell, I'm going to squeeze it, you can see a bead of sweat pop up, right?
Can you eat it raw?
You can if you want to. I think it's a little bit better cooked myself, but I've done some salads where they're marinated lightly, and I think it's fabulous. So eggplant, we're going to just kind of slice these planks down, not too thick, not too thin, and go all the way through it. Even though we're only going to use a couple for this little demonstration, we're going to make some more for us
enough for a
later.
taste.
Right, exactly.
And you
enough
know
for a
our
taste.
tastes.
So-
They're big. Big bites.
Looks like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, right? Enough to where it's a little bit malleable, and once we cook it, it'll fold up without
Okay.
breaking. So eggplant's a little bit tricky. I like to lay this out, give yourself a little extra few minutes to sprinkle some salt. Mary Grace, you want to put some salt all over
here,
this? And Sylvia, sprinkle herbs as well on top of the eggplant.
Okay.
See the fresh herbs on
yeah,
top?
yeah.
So she's using kosher salt and just exactly like she's doing, covering the top. Sylvia's going to put in herbs, and I'm going to sprinkle extra virgin olive oil. And what this does, if you let it sit for about 20 minutes, is you see these little beads of water pop up on the eggplant. You're going to wipe those off, and that makes the eggplant less bitter. Some of that moisture can be a little bit tangy on the tongue, and this pulls it right out. Another technique, you could also soak it in milk, but I think this is a little bit
Oh,
less.
really?
A little
What
bit
does
more.
milk do for it?
It pulls out the same bitterness.
Okay.
So
Is that enough?
yeah, that's plenty.
All right,
So
all right.
that's just salt, pepper, rosemary, and thyme. You know, just kind of like
Smells so good. We need smell-o-vision.
Yeah, just like that song, parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing. We're gonna rub this in and let it sit for about 20 minutes and let those beads pop out.
Okay.
So once that's done, get our skillet hot. If you guys have a grill, it works great on the grill. In fact, I prefer
yeah, it sure
grilled
would.
eggplant. But over medium heat, we're gonna add more olive oil. And we're going to do just 2 planks for this presentation so we can kind of move this along and just show people what to do. And we'll lightly lay the eggplant planks down in the skillet away from you. Like
Oh,
so
with
when you
that-
drop it, the oil goes
With
this
the
way.
goodies down on bottom.
Exactly. So 2 pieces go in, and we're going to let those sit and sear. What I mean by sear is just don't mess with your food. Don't play with it. Just let it brown. And I'll turn down the heat a little bit. Now over here, we're going to make the filling. And I've used, this is a fresh goat cheese I folded in the same herbs. And this is from Capriole. And so it's a local goat cheese, which I think local is
Where
good.
can you find that?
The different store, yeah.
Okay, it's what we'll have up on screen what it is,
Exactly. So I like a local goat cheese, and then gorgonzola and mozzarella cheese, and simple enough.
Oh, wow.
Mary Grace, grab one. Sylvia, grab one. We're going to put it into a bowl and mix it together with that spoon. I'm going to let Mary Grace do
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Thank you. I feel honored.
Oh,
Wonderful.
yeah. Well,
This smells terrific.
what
know,
you've
this
done
is a
is
great
you've done this all your
preparation.
life.
I'm in the right
You grew up with
place.
gardens.
I did.
And here.
So you're just going to mix it together so it's all congruent, all fluid, all one kind of mixture. So gorgonzola is a type of blue cheese, and I like how it gives that pungent, aftertaste. Mozzarella, just a good melting cheese, and goat cheese, that's where you're going to get all the richness that really adds
yeah.
back to, the vegetable.
You know, Jeremy, it is important that Mary Grace is here because we need young people to be getting more and more into this because we're all, well, maybe you're not so much, but David and I,
Hey, I'm getting there. I am absolutely getting there.
We're just getting sassy, though, as we get older, aren't we?
This education seems to make the difference for health and wellness and sustainability.
Oh, and we need
children,
youth
good
to bring
food.
it along.
Yes.
So if you guys can
Okay,
see,
very nice.
the top of this is getting a little bit brown. I'm going to turn down the heat again because this is a hot little pan. But as this cooks, it becomes more translucent, browning on the edges. And we're going to keep that going. So once it is done sweating, the filling's ready to go. And it'll be at the point where we can roll it around the
Okay,
cheese.
it'll be soft enough.
So see how some parts are still white, Sylvia, and
Yeah.
Mary Grace, and some parts are translucent? We want it
want
all to be
translucent.
translucent. This is something I would serve for an appetizer. But if you had a few more of these, on your plate, I mean, that's enough for dinner time.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
now that the entire surface area of this eggplant is translucent, we can bring it back to our little cutting board and see how kind of flimsy that is. Nice and easy. If you want to, you can peel the eggplant. I like the skin. I think
Oh,
it adds
yeah.
a good texture. So we're going to work with these while it's hot. I suggest letting them cool down at home in the fridge so you can work a little bit safer. and a lot easier. So a spoon of cheese and the eggplant. Don't hold back, really, you know.
Oh yeah, make it good.
Give yourself some good
Mary Grace, do you have this for dinner sometimes? Does Dad fix this? Yeah, okay.
Eggplant and zucchini, yes.
Eggplant and zucchinis. That's another one that you can do a lot
So
of.
we're gonna roll these over, just like that, right? So it's like a little.
Hey Jeremy, what's a rutabaga?
A root. You're trying to steal from me, Sylvia. Out in the field, we had lots of great little lettuces. I saw some good kale, and this would be a good base for a salad, you know, for this recipe. So find your good fresh food out there. I like the top, these little pea tendrils that I saw are a great little garnish for the top with. They taste great.
Oh, and this stuff tasted great out in the field.
So we'll get that eggplant. I mean, it's just
Oh, how pretty.
juicy and wonderful there. Put that on top, and then I've just done a vodka tomato sauce, which is, it sounds fancy, but it's very, very easy. We'll spoon that over the eggplant.
And how do you do that?
Well, I'm going to put the recipe up at foodnewsandchews.com so you guys can, of course, see the eggplant and the tomato sauce. But get in the garden and find lots of good little fresh vegetables to garnish this plate
Just
with.
garnish it, yeah.
You know, just good raw foods to balance out good fresh vegetables.
Now you see why Jeremy cooks for me every night.
You're lucky.
I know.
So
Oh, how pretty.
That's about
as pretty as the stuff that we have in the backdrop here of this
about
room.
as good as it can get, right?
Yeah.
The pea tendrils from the garden, good fresh vegetables. David's favorite vegetable to eat.
Ah.
So we had to do him honor in his great work.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you guys hopefully will enjoy that. Anybody want to try to take a bite?
Oh
Somebody?
yeah, let's do a bite. Let's do a bite. Mary Grace.
You want to take a bite?
Sure.
Mary Grace.
All right, guys.
Right.
See if it.
So it's going to be, I've got this really, really big, obnoxious knife that we can use to cut it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, let's do it.
But yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
Take
just
this
cut it up a
piece
little
right
bit here. Mary Grace, you're the
And dig right in.
taster. Tell us what you think. See if.
Good. There we go. That's pretty good.
Well. All right, all right. Hey, this has been so fun. This is
fabulous.
great. I'm so excited about showing this off to the world. But we've been here with Grow Appalachia and David Cooke and Mary Grace Cooke, and how exciting. We'll see you next time.
Food News and Chews is brought to you by these proud sponsors. Alltech, helping farmers feed the world. Azure Restaurant and Patio, worldly influenced, locally inspired. Sullivan University, offering higher education for people with higher goals. Azure Catering, catering the most important events. Yours. Critchfield Meats, fresh, high quality, all natural meats, guaranteed. If you would like a DVD copy of this episode of Food News and Chews, visit foodnewsandchews.com or email us at info@foodnewsandchews.com.